expressed in this special program are not the views or opinions of Tropical Vibes 105.5 FM.
Welcome to Leadership Empowerment. I'm with Dr. Bernard Young, and it's my privilege and pleasure to be able to bring this broadcast to you today. We aim, and our primary objective is to bring you topical, informative, revelatory areas of national, regional, and sometimes we touch on global developments as they relate and impact our local community in the Turks and Caicos Islands. We aim to always be interesting in the discussions and to bring a perspective that will lift the lid and raise the bar and ensure that all of our listeners are hearing an unbiased and impartial view of issues that are really representing what is happening around the world and indeed in our region. And we just invite you, that all of you that are out there, if you would like to call in, our call-in number is 244-1789, 244-1789. And if you're streaming across the internet or any other national and international platform, the number is 649, which is the area code, 649-244-1789. Let us open up with a word of prayer. Father, we thank you for this privilege once again, this divine opportunity to be able to bring across the airways, oh God, a rendition of what you're speaking and decreeing and declaring in this moment of time. We ask for your divine guidance. We ask for the impartation and presence of your Holy Spirit. Open our understanding, heighten our awareness so that we can be the best we can be in representing these Turks and Caicos Islands. We give you the praise, honor, and glory for this time, this 1 hour on leadership empowerment, and we give this praise to you. Amen. We're dealing with today a very interesting topic, an extremely provocative topic. We're looking at and exploring how do we maintain and keep our cultural heritage, our cultural identity in this fast-paced, fast-moving environment. We do know and understand that in the Turks and Caicos, we have a conglomeration, a commingling of more than 80 different cultures, and we have different languages, we have different practices, and it's all now colliding in this local environment. And one of the things as a local people we must ensure is that we maintain our cultural identity, not only maintain our cultural identity, but to ensure that we are uniquely who we are. And to help me bring this point across today, that those of you that are tuning in by radio or the internet platform, helping to flesh out this topic today is one of the sons of the soil, who is a very esteemed gentleman. He's been throughout the length and breadth, not only in the Bahamas, but in the international arena. He's lived abroad, and of course, he's a son of the soil of the Turks and Caicos. And he's invited on the program today to help give a more germane and more pertinent perspective to this whole question of cultural identity, cultural heritage. How do we maintain it amidst all of the challenges that we're facing with this avalanche, this tsunami of different people, languages, creeds, and persuasions that have now been dropped into our space? And we must maintain who we are as a people, and not only maintain it in our generation, but to pass it successfully on to the next generation. And we have with us today Mr. O'Brien Forbes. Welcome, sir.
Pleased to be in your company, Dr. Young, and I listened to your prayer. Your opening prayer was touched and moved by it, that you would petition God, even in matters like these,
of
when
course,
you're educated.
We always need divine guidance.
Absolutely. And I trust that He would be with you, because you're doing some heavy lifting.
Yes, indeed.
The general theme that you're working with, nation building,
Yes.
is an idea that's near and dear to my heart, and I was an advocate of it in the recent election cycle, trying to create awareness that being a country is one thing,
Right.
but nationhood
Totally.
is the underpinning of all things.
Wow.
And the cultural perspective that you're sharing today is all linked to that, because if you don't identify who you are,
my goodness,
you can't own anything that relates to that.
Tell me, O'Brien, and I want you to please be deliberately straight and honest in your speech,
Yes, I can do.
because I attempt to be honest in what I say and what I represent. I avoid being duplicitous and people conveying double meanings out of what I'm saying, because in this defining moment, and I call it a defining moment, and the moment is defining by the virtue of the fact that we have to stand our ground in terms of who we are, so we are not obliterated and we are not lost in the shuffle, in this avalanche, in this tsunami, in this cavalcade that has descended, this deluge that has descended upon us.
Yes.
And while on the one hand it's necessary for the building of business and business enterprise, and to bring commerce and all the things that come along with it, there's a downside. And I want to ensure that we as a people have a very crystallized concept that what we invite in, we must not allow it to be the master of our house.
Absolutely. But it requires prudent management. And it requires a clear and defined vision.
Yes.
One, of who we are,
Exactly.
what we want to be, and
Yes.
what we aspire.
Now you're right in my ballpark, because this is all in the ballpark of that one overarching proviso: leadership.
Leadership.
Let's talk a little bit about the role of leadership in ensuring that a culture is first possessing an identity, one, and then systems and operations are in place to preserve that identity, notwithstanding whatever else may be going on among us. Let's talk about the leadership component in all of this.
Well, for sure, because if we do not lead with our sensibilities as to who we are and what we want to be, someone's going to fill the void, and is usually what you call the dominant culture. Now, whether that dominant culture is poverty or disorganization, or it could be other ethnic groups that are among us, who, because they see the void, decide that they will superimpose who they are and their belief system and their way of living on us, so that we reflect more them than we do ourselves. What our leaders must be careful to do is call able men who have a sense of history as to who we are and how we happened to be here and what we were once in search of, and to make sure that those things obtain here. And what leadership does, leadership talks it, they articulate it, they map it out, they give us clear guidelines.
There's a roadmap.
There is a roadmap. And what it does, that roadmap, if it's accurate and well laid out, there will be no duplicitous.
So there's no hit and miss about this thing. There's a premeditation. I'm hearing this from you.
Well,
there's a premeditation.
Absolutely. Now, what needs to be balanced and weighed, though, is how we came to be here. We're not all from the same beginnings. There's some of us who were here derivatives of the slave trade in the Californias.
Yes.
And then you have some who were seeking commerce from Bermuda. And then there were those who were fleeing religious persecution and political persecution in Haiti.
Right.
And then there were those who were en route to slave, albeit slavery was already abolished.
Right.
This is my loved ones on board the Troubadour.
Right.
The accidental residents on these isles.
So there's a historical component to this.
That is as varied as we are, which means when we're organizing who we want to become, it must take into consideration all of this. So what can't be the tangible, it can't be the eating of the grits.
Talk to me.
And it can't be the pigtails.
And the pigtail and all of that.
It can't be the feasts. What it must be are those intangibles.
Right.
There was a urgent need, one, to survive, because we were a displaced people, and still are to an extent, a displaced people.
Now explain that a little bit, displacement.
Well,
what is a displaced people?
We were born to mothers and fathers on the continent of Africa, along the Ivory Coast, the West Coast, most of us. And we lived pretty spectacular lives until there was a clarion call to come on board what was then termed the old ship of Zion.
Okay, talk to me.
And that she was setting sail to a far better home than this.
Okay.
And those of us who heeded that call found ourselves in much want and despair when we happened to find ourselves in bondage in a foreign land.
Right.
But as within that foreign land, we, the fortunate ones to be descendants of Turks and Caicos peoples, found ourselves in what we could call Rephidim. The resting place before the place.
Okay.
What happened to be a glorious place.
A glorious place.
And the setting itself inspired us to call on our original traditional values of neighborliness and
being your brother's keeper. Talk to me.
Being our brother's keeper.
Keep talking to me about those things. That were once part of who we are.
About creating covenants among ourselves. In agreements toward a common loftier goal.
You mean we were engineered originally as a people who were concerned about the well-being of our fellow man. We were our neighbor's keeper. We are our brother's keeper. We were prudent and honest men with a genuine concern for the survivability of all of us.
And we conveyed it through the currency of good manners. We had respect for one another. We honored what we said. That is the legacy to which we were born and which we come from. But something happened in the intervening years. We were not careful stewards of our culture.
Okay. I want to go back to what we used to be, because you know, if you're going to restore something,
you must know
if
what
something
it once
is
was.
broken,
Yes.
you must have the blueprint of what it originally looked like, what it originally was, because in that restorative process, in that restructuring that must now happen, there must be a clear understanding of what we once were. And now, with that in mind, leadership now, with that clearly in mind, we must first then become a live, living, moving, breathing model. See, this is the thing here. The message we give, we must emulate first. We must be the first partakers of this. And to do that now, I got to be a person of covenant. I got to be a person of care. I got to exemplify a person of concern. I'm not just thinking about me, my family, my bloodline. Once our meal covered and our educational needs covered and our housing needs covered, and I got some money in the bank, of all my mother's children, I love myself the best. Just saying is that people generally don't have a model that they can see, duplicate, and replicate of what this thing is we've been talking about. Talk to me,
No
please.
one would dare to be a Daniel. They wouldn't dare to stand alone. They wouldn't dare to have a purpose firm.
Oh, Jesus.
They would not dare to make it known. We are aliens and brute beasts from the traditions that once held us in good stead and in good stay. We have lost something sacred. And I dare say we were robbed of it because we were thrown from our civility
Your normal,
into an
yes.
incivility.
Yes.
And we've been asked to survive.
Thrown into
Call
a
on
new
these
environment and
Yeah,
say,
man.
now make it.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. And the unfortunate thing is because it has already happened to us before, it gives those who are in leadership or responsible for us permission to do it again. Lest we stop it. Lest we frustrated.
Yes.
Lest we call a stop to it.
I have advanced, Oscar, a thinking, a concept that, bear with me, and those of you that are out there, our theme is reestablishing our cultural heritage, re-identifying with our history. All of this is an integral and very pivotal part in nation building, in building authentic identity, of being a people of character, a people of worth, a people of covenant. That you said that word, covenant. A people of value, a people who's looking 10, 15, 20 years down the future
Visionary.
and making decisions in the present that will impact generations yet unborn. Now, I have come up with a concept because certain things bother me, pester me. And I believe it's true that what pesters you the most is what you were placed in this creation.
Solutions are in your breast.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, absolutely
Yes, sir.
right.
Now,
What pests
what
you?
what
Tell
what
me,
what,
pesterizes
what
you?
pesters me to a great extent is this. Leadership is my nut. That's my bailiwick. That's my thing. That's why I'm into it so passionately. We, as we look across the entire Caribbean, whether it's Jamaica, the Bahamas, Barbados, Haiti, I mean, the St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we look across all of St. Lucius and Kitts, Nevis, and all of the conglomeration where slaves were once deposited. We go to the United States, where slaves were deposited there too.
Yes.
Albeit,
Primarily.
of course.
Principally.
Also in Europe. See, we have to understand the slave trade was a global commercial enterprise
Yes.
that the people of that day, the Europeans and others, benefited immensely from. And it was the dislocation of a people. Now, the first thing that happens, and I'm coming to my point in a minute, from a biblical perspective, every time one nation invaded and besieged another nation, and they carried off the brightest and the best, left that which was sick, and decrepit to die because you couldn't commercialize sickness. You needed healthy, strong, vibrant, smart, and talented. That's who you took off. But the first thing they did was to reprogram you, and how they reprogrammed you, they disconnected you from your history, one, and then they gave you a new name.
Yes. Yes. Proper English names.
So my surname, Bernard Young, in truth, is my name from the former taskmaster that indentured my family historically. So it's perpetuated now, even in my generation, and I've married my wife, Beulah Rose, who was Musgrove, who was another slave owner name, and now she took on my surname, Young, because the original line, bloodline, I know not, and I can't identify with. So now, as a leader in the 21st century, a leader in the Turks and Caicos, my understanding of leadership is cut off. The model of leadership handed down to us from our former taskmasters. We've never seen a model of liberating leadership. We've never seen a model where leadership, a servant leadership model, the kind Jesus Christ tried to give it. Those that want to lead must be what? Servant of all. We've never seen a model where you lead based on the betterment of people and not self-aggrandizement first. We are promulgating and we are advancing a concept here that nobody has seen a clue of what it looks like. Let's talk about that.
And if I may add, it is a staunch British tradition.
Indeed.
To command,
yes,
punish,
and yes. The good doctor Gilbert Morris was on about 3 weeks ago, and he was wrestling with the same.
Yeah, man.
Command,
punish and control.
Punish and control.
And that's how we do it here.
Command,
punish.
If you don't follow the command, you get punished. And then
punishment.
The whole perspective is to have mass control, and then you can manipulate, and then you can play the game, and then you can move your personal narcissistic agenda forward. That is not lifting in general the entire nation to a higher level of consciousness, awareness, and total absolute freedom and prosperity. Now, the freedom I command in here and talking about is a mental liberation. Yes. Because liberation starts right here in
the mind. The transforming and the renewing of the mind to think.
Think differently.
Soberly. You got to be sober in your
thoughts. Lord have mercy.
You must be righteous, meaning you must do the right things. In this time, and what man-made systems has been able to do is there is a divinity in us.
Yes.
Towards self-discipline and towards leadership.
Yes.
We're predisposed to it.
Yes. It's not.
And because they can't get their minds around individuals being free and prosperous and self-determined. Liberated. We put these commands and controls in place.
So the duplication and replication by the conventional mindset of what we call leadership today is really, in truth, a reflection, as I have opined a little earlier, of no more than the command, punish, control, leadership mentality and leadership model of what has been the ethos of the past. So consequently, what we are now faced with as our primary challenge, what is our Achilles heel? What is our difficult hurdle is to wake and awaken leaders to a different kind of thinking. Let's talk about that, because this is all in the realm of leadership. I mean, we could want to build a nation, we could think nation building, we can think all of the things about our culture and analyzing our cultural heritage and the cultural dynamics of that and what went wrong. But unless we have a mindset and the wherewithal to do something different. And that's what I look for. You know, as a leader, leadership is a spirit.
It is a spirit.
It is a spirit. It is a spirit. Adolf Hitler was a leader. Extraordinary. He could convince. He had the masses sold on a vision. He was able to amass them and bring them into a common mindset to go on a specific road, a specific roadmap and path, and he energized them to do what they did. And they massacred.
Well, he did it with charisma as well.
That's
now,
not charisma.
mind you, and just for the sake of clarity, we're only analyzing his leadership ability in the strictest and the starkest of terms. This is not an adulation.
No, not at all. Not at all, because we're going to
figures in
yes,
history.
we're going to bring the perspective into place of someone who led with a different spirit of outcome.
Yes.
The outcome of Adolf Hitler was the annihilation of an extermination of human beings.
A genocide.
Now, that was physical.
Yes.
Now, let's piggyback on this fact. You could still annihilate potential and opportunity in people, and they're walking around alive.
Half alive.
They're among the living dead.
Half alive.
They're among the living dead.
Yes.
And the good book talk about blind leading the blind. And then everybody fall in the ditch.
Yes. Moving in circles.
There is no hope. There is no movement forward. Now, Nelson Mandela was also a leader.
He was.
But a suffering servant.
The character of Christ, a type and shadow.
Yes, exactly. We must understand the spirit of leadership. But what emerged out of him was liberation of people. People ascended the throne. Their thoughts changed. Their possibilities mushroomed. There was a different kind of impetus coming out of them. They moved and plowed forward. They could dream and see the dream become a reality. So, true, authentic, liberating leadership does something that transforms a people in their lifetime. It gives them a dream. It gives them a jump start that otherwise they could not have. It is not going after filthy lucre. It is not going after materialism, which seemingly is the leadership virus. That's a good word. That have affected most of our leaders in the region, in the world, people of color.
People of color.
We all being beleaguered by the same problem, so there's a common historical origin.
And I would hasten to argue that again stems from two things. The long-standing and deeply entrenched poverty that we all come out of. Displaced from wealth.
Yes.
Displaced from our respect for hierarchy.
Yes.
Displaced from the true composite of what leadership is, in that you must first be the example. You must be a light.
Right.
You must be a drawing influence.
Right.
But with a noble cause.
Of course.
Toward righteousness and justice and
Lord,
peace. Those were the abstracts that are missing from today's leaders. We have the sense of urgency to acquire and to get and to preserve. And while those things have their place,
yes,
we've made them our idols. We've put them before the greater mission, which is to carry everyone along.
Yes.
To make sure that to eradicate poverty. These are the things we've lost sight of.
So this eradication of poverty is an eradication of how people think.
Yes.
We think poverty thoughts. Yes. We think lack thoughts. We cannot see progress unless it's represented by material progress. We cannot see that I have just deposited $1 million in my child's consciousness, if I've liberated him from the bondages that had him bound in his thinking. I've just gone into, let me pick an abstract Hamlet here. I've just gone into Blue Hills, and I've just liberated the people and given them each of them $10 million. If I shift in a meaningful way how they think, and it's for the better, because it's going to translate in the fullness of time into a radically altered environment.
For the better.
For the better.
Improvement. I believe some even call it the next level. I've heard that expression.
The next level.
And that is what we have a glaring deficit of reimagining ourselves in the characters of Christ. Sons of God. Where we have that perception of ourselves that we are better than our beginnings.
Now, this, I'm a church guy.
Yes, I've heard.
But listen. Hear me, man. I say that with the greatest respect.
For sure.
But I say it with a heavy heart. Simultaneously.
What is
because
your conundrum?
My conundrum is that this virus has steeped in and slipped in, and we now, who ought to be the salt and the light. Oh, Jesus.
I mean, the salt has been the threatening of the savoring of the salt.
Yes, sir.
The vanguards of culture, the vanguards of leadership.
The vanguards of leadership find themselves beleaguered by the problems that are on the outside that we were placed strategically by the Master himself in the midst of, to bring light, direction, revelation, insight, to open the eyes of men and women to see the truth and to know the truth, so that knowledge of that can set them free. We are the salt of the earth, that book says. But it warns. Salt is good. It allows us to distinguish tastes. Who can know the white of an egg or taste the white of an egg unless you salt it?
Vegetarian here. He's a vegetarian here. I'm sorry.
Talk to me.
I'm deeply offended, but I see your point.
Salt is good.
It has a
but
place.
If the salt has lost its purpose, if the salt has lost its identity, if the salt has lost its culture, if the salt has lost its history, it is thenceforth good for nothing.
But for to be thrown out into the streets.
Yes.
And trodden under the
which,
feet of men.
Putting it another way, is simply saying, what you should be leading and have dominion over, now has dominion over you.
Yes. And I believe the Americans call it leading from behind. But what I want to hear from you more directly, so we've already identified that there's some deficits in the clergy.
Yes, that's one area of leadership. One area that ought to be a clarion clear vanguard of truth and of keeping our cultural identity and our heritage and our consciousness of that alive. Yes, you see, I kind of strange, ain't much people could be flocking where
I joined the Baptist.
Because this is a different message. It's a message reformulated by the Holy Spirit to touch a 21st century world and bring us back to the bastions of truth where we ought to be. Now, culture, history in the Turks and Caicos. I'm sorry I bring the word in it, but if the foundations be destroyed, Jesus, what can the righteous do? What gives us our credence? What gives us our validation? It's the foundations of truth. You can't tamper with muddied, forgotten, thrown up underneath the floor, thrown down the dunghill, does not alter it. It still emerges as truth. Nothing can be done against it. Nothing can be done for it. It is the truth.
It stands on its own.
It is the truth. And we seek today on this program, as we talk about our cultural and historical paradigms. My guest on the program today is Mr. Brian Forbes, who is here with us today and helping us to dig the soil, to find out the rich deposits that's in the ground, that's hidden underneath, that we need to surface. And one of the things we have to do, those of you that are listening to me out there, if you want to call in, 244-1789, 244-1789. If you want to call in and make a comment or say something pertinent to the discussion on the table, which is culture and our history, preserving our cultural identity, preserving our cultural heritage. And it's all part of the bigger subject of nation building, preserving this great and awesome nation of the Turks and Caicos Islands, having the community pride, having the national pride, having what is necessary, so that when I go anywhere in the world and I say, my name is Bernard Young and I'm a Turks and Caicos Islands, I say that with confidence, because the world knows we understand who we are, and no one can deter us from that path. Absolutely. This is our endeavor on the show. Leadership Empowerment each week seeks to bring this kind of riveting, piercing perspective so that our people can wake up. The theme is wake up, everybody. No more sleeping in bed. No more backward thinking. Time for thinking ahead. Now, Mr. O'Brien, tell me, man, what has been your experience? What is culture? What's culture?
Excellent question. And I did some exhaustive research because you want to get the language right.
Yes, that's what it's culture.
Because we all have ideas, we have feelings about what, and I
yes.
wrote something here, but I did not bring my glasses with me, so I shall attempt. You are a good man,
yes,
you're a kind man.
Yes, sir, I am.
And we share equal
yes,
challenges,
yes, sir, yes, sir, yes,
okay.
sir.
Some definitions for culture.
Yes, sir.
Culture refers to the cumulative deposit of knowledge, experience, beliefs, values, attitudes, meanings, hierarchies, religion, notions of time, roles, spatial relations, concepts of the universe, the material objects and possessions acquired by a group of people, in this case, the Turks and Caicos people, in the course of generations through individual and group strivings.
Okay.
Culture is the system of knowledge shared by a relatively Turks and Caicos people. It's that reservoir of knowledge, it's that common understanding that we have. Culture is communication, and communication is culture. Culture is the broadest sense in cultivated behavior. That is the totality of a person's learned, accumulated experience which is socially transmitted, or more briefly, behavior through social learning. And of course, it just expands on all of what I've just shared with you, but culturally, speaks to what we do as a collective.
It's our collective capacity.
So there has to be agreements, restrictions, covenant. We have to agree to live a certain kind of way. And the intangibles that I promote in terms of cultural behavior are what we all seek, that are created in Darwin. It's freedom.
Freedom.
Liberty.
Yes.
Freedom of thought.
Expression.
Freedom to exist.
Yes.
Freedom to be happy.
Yes.
Freedom to live in peace.
And have every opportunity to enjoy the lion's share of what your land brings you. The opportunities, whether it's a job, whether it's going into business, whether it's having access to credit, whether it's, just dreaming, enlarging your dream. You should have every privilege and opportunity to do that, and not as a second or third class citizen in preference to someone else's culture that has been superimposed over on yours. And unfortunately, O'Brien, as I scan the length and breadth of the Turks and Caicos Islands. I see some of it in the Bahamas, but it's not so predominant because the Bahamians tend to address this with a much more aggressive posture.
Big stick.
Yeah, big stick. What I've noticed here is people invited into the country as guests, whether they come in as investors, whether they come in as employees, part of the labor force, or whether they sneak in on a boat.
There's some of that.
Yeah, some of that. But that's not the big problem. The people who come in on boat, the boat lifts, they're not a big problem. They're essentially rural people and farmers, and they're looking for a better way of life. I understand that, and I've said this many times before. They're not our real problem. They're not our real threat. Our real threat is imminent and coming from another source that no one talks about.
Let's talk about
No one speaks to the issue. No one brings it to the table because intimidation, fear, uncertainty, perhaps we're not even knowledgeable of the fact that our real threat is not our brothers and sisters from Hispaniola. What I have noticed is that the imminent threat to our culture is superimposing its culture on ours, and not only that, having access to the better housing, the better real estate opportunities, all the proceeds and opportunities in the land, the better jobs, everything. And we sit docile, like we have no understanding of what's going on, and we're just happy to accept that. Is that a throwback from our past historical servitude spirit? What is going on with us as a people? What's going on with leadership?
There's some insidious things that we suffered as a collective people in our immediate past, and we the fact that you're willing to delve into it,
of course,
is a good opportunity for us to learn how far-reaching and disruptive the slave trade was.
Yes.
It's engendered distrust among us.
Distrust.
Yes. We have been devalued even in our own eyes.
Right.
We tend to see ourselves as the imperials saw us, unworthy, unwashed, unfit, and undeserving.
Right.
And what we do is we organize our countries toward that end.
So we look at our own color, our own people, our own ethnic group as not measuring up, not having the wherewithal, not being able to capably govern something, have the governance of something, to bring it from sickness to life, to bring it from the doldrums into high achievement and high results. We don't seem to understand, or don't seem to comprehend, or don't seem to know, or we're oblivious to the fact that we have in us everything the other cultures have and more, because we have a spirit that's connected to our Maker. Isn't that amazing?
And a spirit that was forged with fire.
With fire.
With brimstone.
Lord have mercy.
Through peril, through hardship, through poverty. Locally we call it John Kaya. So we've been acquainted with grief. And we've been bruised by our circumstances.
And still live through it.
We live through because we are resilient because of that spirit that abides within us. But we tend to gather to ourselves leaders who can't take us from beyond that. We've already lamented our past. Now, what is the plan?
I want the promised land, man. It's time to enter the land. Take the land.
We're well able to do it.
Of course, of course.
Our leaders have to inculcate that.
Of
And
course.
they have to perpetuate it in their speeches, like the men of old that you quoted.
Yes.
Mandela.
Yes.
He had an eloquence about him.
Yes. Yes.
He lived out the example
Right.
before his people.
And it's not just ascending the throne. I have something that
That looks like the book.
yes, in the book. In fact, I found it, and I found it very, very, very interesting. In fact, it's a clipping from Ecclesiastes 10, the book of wisdom. Ecclesiastes 10, verses 5 to 7. And let me just quote the translation in case somebody believes I'm making it up. New Living Translation,
okay,
which puts it in a context of words that are able to be assimilated without taking away the import of the original King James.
Neither jot nor tittle.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And it's subcaptioned The Ironies of Life. There is another evil I have seen under the sun. Solomon lamenting.
Yes.
Kings and rulers make a grave mistake when they give great authority to foolish people and low positions to people of proven worth. Let me read on a little bit now. Verse 7, I've even seen servants riding horseback like leaders, and leaders walking like servants. A mistake made by leadership to appoint, anoint, place in leadership position with responsibility for the masses and other people and resources, with responsibility for causing things to agitate and grow and prosper. This book, this word that we say we know and are acquainted with, says there has been incidents in the course of human history. Solomon is lamenting, we have seen leaders make a grave mistake.
The wisest man that ever lived.
They put the wrong people to do the job.
And mind you, the mistake is manifold because it is a protectionist strategy that blind leadership does by putting these people in strategic places to insulate and protect themselves.
I am advancing the fact that a model of leadership, we've never seen liberating leadership. So we're going to duplicate the leadership of our taskmasters.
Yes.
And their system was to do just what we read. To ensure that you have the right people aligned to your mindset, aligned to your way of thinking, that will protect your interests and your designs. Consequently, because it's a gridlock situation, the whole masses of people cannot advance forward and be propelled forward.
And we suffer greatly as a result.
And as a result of that, so...
And those are the multiple mistakes.
Yes.
The suffering of the people.
Yes.
They can't grow their own kingdom.
Exactly.
Because they don't have able men around them. And you've not chosen it. So it's a poor reflection. Exactly. It doesn't advance where we want to go.
So now being a leader that you know, been fired and tested by life, and have come through the fiery furnace, understanding that you have to stand, and having done all stand. And your greatest arsenal is the truth. Having gone through that, and now understand clearly that to break the gridlock, you have to talk and change the conversation to a different kind of conversation. You see, it doesn't make sense to decry this person or that person for what they did or didn't do. You alter the conversation.
Yes. Now,
with an altered conversation, it's not what you do or didn't do, it's what the conversation is saying, and you have to now elevate so we could talk to the issues on the table.
Another strategy.
Not how what you did last time and what you didn't do, a promise you made or didn't. No. I ain't about that. This is the sublime spot we need to hit. This is the conversation. And any conversation I engage in, we're talking about economic diversification. We're talking about some other things that now need to be brought into the mix because I want the pie to be cut differently. And I want more of my people owning things as opposed to
laboring and
working for somebody else who getting the lion's share of this, and then we 30, 40, 50 years later ain't no better off than our parents were.
Right.
Because we're indentured servants. No. I changed the conversation entirely. We need a different conversation at a different level. Okay, what about economic diversification? Why haven't we diversified this economy more? After all this here. Same question for the Bahamas right now. After all this time, all your eggs in the tourist basket and all your eggs in the financial services sector, and you don't own the assets. They owned by somebody else. And at any J whistle in the environment, they could pick up and say bye. And your whole system of life,
the dolly house falls apart,
comes crashing down.
Yes.
How do we agitate?
We need to cultivate a belief in our people
Yes.
that the abilities are here.
Yes.
We need to understand what it is to command wealth, to own wealth. Not just be around it, not proximity, not wealth by proximity. Wealth through acquisition, through ownership. There are things that are within our grasp, that we could be partakers of.
Yeah.
But again, it requires a reimagination of where things are. We're so accustomed to everything that we enjoy here coming on the water toward us. But what about where we standing?
Right.
We own the land by proxy.
Yes, sir.
We own the land. We now need to cultivate.
And some of us own it and don't have a sense of understanding what that means. We give it away foolishly.
Yeah, man, you can't just
And
get
we do foolish things.
We own the land.
We never think about anybody who want to utilize the land. We lease it to you for X amount.
Borrow it, man.
Yeah.
Count
Because
it.
this ain't leaving the...
It is a limited resource.
Yes, sir.
It needs to be a part of a commonwealth,
Yes, sir.
a sovereign wealth
Absolutely.
that benefits the people directly,
Yes.
and not just some of us, the collective.
Yes, the collective.
All of
And that's what leadership really does. And our topic today, I don't see no one calling in.
No, they like what they're hearing.
1789. I want to hear from someone out there. Holler at your boy. Let me hear something from you. 244-1789. Even if it's a word of encouragement, if you like the show, if you don't like, say something. These are very topical issues. How do we preserve the cultural identity of the Turks and Caicos and the cultural heritage of the Turks and Caicos? How we muster the wherewithal, the strength to say who we are and believe in who we are, notwithstanding what others think, say, or do, it matters not, we stand our ground. And that's the kind of people we must become. And leaders out there, whether you're in the church leadership arena, whether you're in a civic arena of leadership, whether you're in business and commerce leadership arena, the legal profession, the hospitality, political leadership, civil service leadership, family leadership, wherever you find yourself as a leader, you're being challenged today by a command from heaven to check where you're standing. Check yourself. See if you're standing on the right kind of foundation. Look around you and see how the constituents have changed for the better that will protect the future. I'm not talking about giving them $500,000 and a big house and a flashy car. No. changing and altering the way we think, the way their children think, the way the community thinks, bringing covenant back, being our brother's keeper once again, bringing the love back, those repositories we once had, and we let flutter and flitter away because we've adopted another culture that's greed and avarice.
Alien.
Get what you can get, take what you can take while you can take it. Smile in their face, stab them in their back. It matters not. Whatever it is, come out on top. The art of the deal. And the deal is normally one-sided. We have to abandon those discordant behaviors. They're alien to us.
Yes.
And we're not doing justice to our past, our forefathers who slaved and worked and put value in us so that this day could be a different day. It's time for all Turks and Caicos to be, all the people to be able to cross into the promised land. We've crossed over Jordan River, Chile and coal. Now to set up new structures on the other side.
Yes.
So talk to me, Mr.
Well, I like what you said. We do a disservice to our adoptive behavior. We do a disservice to our history.
Yes, sir.
But not only to our history,
Yes, sir.
to our transition,
Yes, sir.
and to our promise.
Yes. Yes.
We're living in deceit.
Yes.
And the wisest man that ever lived
Yes.
tells us that this is folly.
Yes, it's a folly.
It's going to end in destruction and an annihilation of who you want to be.
Yes.
So I would employ our Turks and Caicos Islanders, because another unique thing about culture, and how leadership can influence it or even be influenced by it,
Yes.
is that where there are deficits in leadership, because truth is what it is, and we are supposed to move from strength to strength, there's usually a rumbling in the undercurrent, in the undertow, in the grassroots. They agitate for change. They agitate to acquire the promise. So where the leaders are blind and without vision,
Right.
it's going to be reflected in the people.
In the people.
And the people are going to rise up.
Right.
They're going to make demands. And that's one of the beautiful things about being in democracy. You don't get shot.
Yes.
Well, you don't usually
You
get
usually
shot
got shot. Yes.
for agitating for righteousness
Right.
and for justice and for freedom.
Absolutely.
And all of the benefits that comes from a culturally acute and vibrant
Yes.
people.
Sensitive.
Sensitive,
To the mood of
sensitized
the
to the
moment.
mood of the moment and the propelling forward.
Yes.
Because there was another shift that's happening among us.
Yes.
Education is like
Education.
running in the streets. And that has opened our eyes toward enterprise, toward a different understanding of ourselves,
Possibilities.
to all the possibilities. Because them hungry children of yesterday ain't hungry no more.
Absolutely.
They've come into means.
Yes.
So you can't dangle that
Right.
in front of them. It's got to be a higher purpose that we're serving.
And those of you that are in educational leadership, the moment, the mood and ethos of the moment is begging that we re-engage and redeploy educational resources of a different type, because the world around us is highly technological, it's driven in a different dimension, and we need to re-examine the traditional way we educate our children.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because if we want to perpetuate our culture,
Yes.
we're talking about not who we become now,
Yes.
but who we once were.
Yes.
Those intangibles that we
Right.
all exemplified.
Right.
If you want to teach that, and rather replicate it, you must teach it. And our one glaring deficit with education is we don't teach Turks and Caicos history. We don't teach Turks and
Culture.
Caicos civics. We don't teach Turks and Caicos culture in any of our schools. But I'm grateful that we have a new minister for culture
Yes.
who we can say is from an indigenous branch of the Turks and Caicos,
Okay.
who I suspect has a passion to run that, to upend that.
Right.
That
Restructure.
structure.
Structure.
Because the biblical admonition, when the children of Israel crossed over into Canaan. So you got to write it on the tables of their heart.
Exactly.
You've got to bind it around the necks.
Absolutely.
They must be in constant reminder.
Lest they forget.
Lest they forget. You
forget.
need to be reminded of who you are and whose you are. I've got one group of aunties. They were just here. And when I see them, I turn to the little boy that I once was.
Yeah.
You
went back. You went back in time.
They take me back to that time. It was a place of safety, you know. There were certain assurances that I had, that they were there for me. They cared, and they kept me in the tradition of having manners and respect for the neighbor, and for being courteous to other road users when you're walking along. Don't be loud. Don't aggravate the neighbor's dog. Walk on the left. Face traffic. These things made me ready for my society. I could function.
Yeah.
With great alacrity.
Yes, sir.
Because of these aunts of mine, and they were here, and they reinforced those things, you know, and then they validate, well done, son, because I'm grown now. And I still walk on the left, and I'm still neighborly, and I still say hi. And
those values stayed with you.
Absolutely.
Those values are attached to who you are.
Absolutely.
And those values are part of your international passport.
Absolutely.
To be able to operate in an international
I believe you meant
arena.
global
arena,
yes,
buddy.
man. Yes,
it is your passport.
As it is.
You know excellence. You know that you got to deliver things on time every time. You know that you got to interpret your environment immediately and know what to do and what not to do, where to go, what to say, how to respond. Those things are part of that germination that we get from that infancy.
Yes, man.
That's why we need people around us who can tell us the truth, who will correct us. Not just agree with foolishness and go along with you just because you're my homie and we born in the same place. And you know, I go vote for you because, you know, no, what is your platform? Your platform making sense about the Turks and Caicos and in the best interest of this country? That's what it's about. Don't like me for liking me. Like me for what I bring to the table. Substance. That's what it's about today. Substance which breeds sustenance, which gives us all a piece of something, of value.
And a sense of
and
purpose.
That's what it's about. Yes. And in the closing moments of the program, when we're winding down.
We're there already?
We did an hour already, but
we're there already?
When you're having fun, when you're talking through. The time flies.
Yes.
But in the closing moments of the program, any final comments you want to make, and then I'll make a closing remark or two.
Thank you for having me here today, and thank you for the bold initiative you're exercising in the discharge of this program.
Yes.
It is a theme whose time has come. The echoes of a time not so long ago, I believe it was the month of December, when we were in silly season here in Turks and Caicos, where I championed the same cause. Culture is very important. It identifies who we are. We have a common goal. We need to be clearly defined, and we need to pursue it. And I look to leadership. I offered the kind of leadership, and now I look to our elected leaders for that leadership, our clergy, and all of the relevant authorities that you cited.
Indeed.
I look to them to offer us that kind of leadership so we can, as a collective people, return to a state of peace. Return to a state of neighborliness. Return to a state of oneness. And for all of the benefits we get from being a dependent territory, I long for the day when we turn our affections toward nationhood.
Yes.
And God bless you, and
thank you so very much, and thanks for being on the program. And a few closing comments. I like to pull out timeless pieces said by people from across the globe. Dr. Carter G. Woodson wrote the following: if you can determine what a man should think, you need never concern yourself with what he will do. If you can make a man feel inferior, you will never have to compel him to seek an inferior status, for he will seek it himself. If you can make a man feel justly an outcast, you will never have to ask him to go to the back door, for he will go there without being told, and if there is no back door, his very nature will demand one. Isn't that interesting? Something from the annals of the late Dr. Martin Luther King. He opined, darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. And of course, something by Frederick Douglass, a truth worth remembering, is for all of us out there. Wherever justice is denied, wherever poverty is enforced, wherever ignorance prevails, and wherever one class is made to feel that society is an organized conspiracy to oppress and rob and degrade them, neither persons nor property will be safe. Leaders can't put a chain about the ankle of another man, but alas, you will find the other end of that chain is fastened around your own neck. And something from the good book that we refer to, for what good would it profit a man if he gained the whole world, the $1 million house, the Mercedes-Benz, all the tracts of land, millions in the bank? What good would it profit us as a people if some of us gain the whole world and lose a whole nation? This is Bernard Young on Leadership Empowerment. Wake up, everybody. No more sleeping in bed. No more backward thinking. Time for thinking ahead. Why? The world has changed so very much from what it used to be. There is so much hatred, war, and poverty. Wake up, leaders. Wake up, spiritual leaders, political leaders, philanthropic leaders, community leaders, family leaders, educational leaders, wherever you are in the spectrum of leadership. It's time to wake up.